here. I want to start off with public input. I believe we have a member of the public who wants to make a comment.
Oh. Thank you, Harvey. Okay. You're up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Harvey Eder. I've lived here a long time. I went to Venice High, class of 67. My family's been here over 100 years. I've been homeless 10, 15 years. I'm old. I'm disabled, different types of disability. I just came out of the hospital for a week and a half, and I got major problems. I was exposed to asbestos up in Alaska on the oil pipeline. I busted up my neck on the pipe bending crew. And I've had water on the lung and breathing problems and walking problems. And my feet were all swollen up, and I'm on all these medications. I was on no medications for 5, 10 years. And I was taking some pain med, and because of fentanyl, they cut off the pain stuff. But all I was doing was smoking weed, and I'm real concerned that weed be treated legally as medicine and whatnot. I also have contact with the VA through Berkeley. I was in ROTC, getting ready for 90-day wonder for Vietnam. But anyway, home ownership is extremely important, and it's being ignored. Under Section 8, there's been for 30 years a program that's being done in thousands of places around the country. They did, as of 5 years ago, about 6 units in San Francisco and a couple dozen down here. But the price of the property has gone up here 10 times in 30 years, all right? We tried to do this with Step Up. I've been going there 30 years and whatnot. I got in doing environmental stuff. I was the first environmental studies student, got a living tree in the White House with Ruckelshaus House in 1970, and been doing that, invented the, and then inventor, et cetera, the skateboard when I was like 5, 7 years old, watching the Argain company. So anyway, I want to introduce myself and litigating with y'all, and there's a long history of this, and I have to do it in bits and pieces.
Thank you for your comment and being here. We appreciate it. Do we have any more public comments?
We have a written public comment that was submitted. It's in front of you here. It's pretty lengthy. The written public comment online was about 95 pages, but it's...
Okay, so should I just mention it?
Yes, please.
So we have a public comment from Connor Webb. He couldn't attend last month's meeting, but he provided a lot of very technical feedback about curb ramps. I'll just read his paragraph and then encourage the public to read it. And we appreciate you, Connor, for providing all the technical documentation, the links to the guidelines, and I will forward this to the ADA coordinator because this is great info, so thank you, Connor. So, dear Santa Monica Disabilities Commission, I'm sorry I could not attend the previous meeting, but I wanted to follow up the curb ramp conversation during public comment with more details. Curb ramps are particularly relevant when dealing with topics such as aging and disabilities, and while codes and guidelines have been updated over the years to make them more accessible, Santa Monica has been falling behind. While a few projects like 17th Street included directional curb ramps that are up to code and more accessible than diagonal ones, many of the recent projects have been keeping all ramps diagonal when rebuilding them. Additionally, federal law requires cities to reconstruct all curb ramps that are not compliant with 1991 ADA requirements to current standards when repaving or otherwise altering a road. Santa Monica has not been meeting this for any road project. Attached are my full comments with details on the relevant regulations, why this is a critical accessibility, safety, and legal issue, and what Santa Monica needs to do differently. Thank you, Connor. And then the next couple pages go into these technical citations with images. It's really in depth, so I encourage everyone to take a look. And thank you again, Connor. Do we have any more comments?
Not under item 1, under item 2, yes.
Okay, so we'll move on to public input on item number 2.
Harvey? This is on item 3A, special agenda item 3A.
I also want to make comments on comments following the person for 3B. Okay, legal aid, I know sometimes I've been, I got a 30-day notice, I'm at San Moschel, and I got all kinds of crap going on. I went to the Air District, which I've been going for 40 years, and I testified on their plans and what they're doing. I came back, left at 4 o'clock in the morning, came back at 8, all my stuff was thrown out. I filed with the police. This has happened over at Step Up, and there's, for years, and okay, for home ownership, Section 8, there are no income requirements for seniors and disabled people, okay? You can have your own management company, your own finance company, and actually buying the building. The right of first refusal, the legal right, anytime a building is sold or transferred, needs to be given to every tenant, every disabled person, and senior and the combo, you're talking about most of the people on the street, et cetera. Okay, that's important. And legal aid, I've had less than perfect communications with them in the past. They'll have a limit of they can't do private attorneys and this and that, and now they've moved to a more remote place. Gail and I were out in front of the door for at least a half hour trying to get their attention and go in for me. Anyway, so maybe we can do better, and there has to be other groups that come in and help on this home ownership thing to start co-ops and whatnot, so that's important, and I'm going to be running out of time. I have not go over this whole thing, but there's basic structural stuff. The whole thing with the city is like putting a bash on poor people and people from the street, and it's garbage and it's outrageous. The city plan and all this stuff with pedophilia and all that. How come it doesn't come out of the cops' pensions instead of money that's going to be feeding people and stuff? This is what's needed: health care. All right, and we got to change it. We got to do it here. We got to grab by the horns and do it, because it ain't going to come from manna.
Thank you, Harvey. Appreciate your comments. Do you have any more public comments for item 2?
I don't believe so.
Okay, I'm gonna move the agenda along to 3A, special agenda items. 3A is a presentation and discussion with Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles, Kevin Mitchell, managing attorney. And thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting us. Kind of splitting up our comments, but thank you very much. I'm Kevin Mitchell. I'm the managing attorney in Santa Monica. Let me figure out how to work the remote. Hey, that's not that bad. Hello, everybody. So I just wanted to start by giving a brief overview of what LAFLA does across the county, and then I'd like to hone in on what we do here in Santa Monica. So across the county, we have 5 offices. We have three domestic violence clinics. We have self-help centers, and we do a broad mix of benefits, of housing, of immigration, student loans, consumer debt. We've been doing it for over 95 years. So for today, as I said, I'd like to give you an overview of our services. I'd like to provide you with a bit of data from the last fiscal year. My staff attorneys are going to give you some examples of accommodations we've requested on behalf of clients and sort of how that works. And we can go into as much or as little detail as you think is helpful, so please say so. And we'd like to identify some of the challenges that we've seen for our clients that have a disability that are navigating the system, whatever that might be. So let's start with an overview of our services. So generally speaking, LAFLA provides direct services to clients. This can come in the form of a number of things. There's a spectrum of work. It could be as simple as counsel and advice. You come to us with a problem, we sit down and we talk to you about it, we advise you on what you can do, and sort of that's it. Maybe, one or two times that we might meet. It could be writing a letter on your behalf, all the way up to representing you in court. So anywhere along that spectrum that fits with both the client's needs and our ability and availability to give that help, then we certainly do. So I just want to give you some examples of our foundation-wide work for folks that have a disability. We have a large presence in the CBEST program. So the CBEST program we represent those clients whose applications for benefits have been denied. That can, once again, include with the direct provider of the benefit all the way up to federal court. We also help veterans with a variety of issues, including problems with HUD-VASH, discharge, record clearances. And lastly, one of our work groups has done quite a bit of work in appealing the denials of medical equipment requests through Medicare. Separately, LAFLA has a focus on accessibility for our clients. This is separate from the work we do on their behalf, specifically for what we try to provide to them, which includes how to reach us and how to exist in our space safely and comfortably. So all of our offices, including the one here, are ADA accessible for folks that either have a wheelchair, a walker, or any type of space or ambulatory issue. Nearly all of our services are available virtually. That includes by phone. That includes by Zoom. And that's for folks that either don't want to or don't feel comfortable or physically can't reach us in person at either the office or one of our various clinic locations. So we try to just be as accessible as possible. And to that end, if we are representing you and we need a signature or we need to in-depth go through a document with you, and you can't come to us, we will come to you. Whether it's a paralegal, one of my staff attorneys, we routinely will drive to a client's house so that they don't have to come to us. That shouldn't be a barrier for them to receive help and to thoroughly understand what we're doing on their behalf. Please interrupt me at any point with questions. I'm happy to respond.
Definitely want to have some questions after this.
Got you. Just want to make sure. Great. We also offer translation, including ASL. We do that for folks that are both in person and over Zoom. So it could be via a teleconference, whether they have joined a Zoom and we bring a translator in and join the room, whether we bring them on a screen to a client in person in the office. We really try to work around that so we can appropriately communicate with our clients. And lastly, we do partner with several local orgs that offer the sorts of mental and, whether it be like a mental health issue or a physical disability, there are services that law firms just don't offer. And we need a case manager or support from a partner. Big part of the work that we do, especially in housing, and you're going to hear about that, is we try to give a warm referral to a partner org and have us work as a team to address the issues. Because when you're working on behalf of a client, especially one with a disability, you have the legal issues and you have the adjacent issues that we can't always address ourselves. So we try to form a team to adequately treat the client as a whole and not just as a case. So let me give you some data. This is from the last year, July 1, 24 through June 30th, 2025 will be from us. But first, foundation-wide, in 2024, this is from our year-end report. LAFLA as a whole, across the county, we have over 18,000 cases that we opened. We helped more than 31,000 folks at self-help, put on a ton of educational seminars, resources, and online information. And of those cases, 1 in 3 of those clients have a disability. So it is a huge part of our practice. And it's a huge part of the perspective that informs the way that we treat folks when they come to us. So here in Santa Monica, our data very much mirrored what we are seeing across the county. So in my office alone, here, and we only serve residents based on our grants, my office closed 1,100 cases just in the last year. Of those clients, 30% self-identified as having a disability. So once again, it's a huge part of what we do. Now, of the clients that we had that identified as having a disability, 80% of them had a housing issue. That could be pre-litigation, I just have a problem with the recert of my voucher. I need some assistance, a liaison with the housing authority. I've been accused of violating a program. There's no 3-day notice, there's no court case yet. That's down the line. But there are several other issues that our clients face, so we try to get in as early as possible. Separately, when they do receive a 3-day notice for non-payment, for nuisance, for any number of things that results with an eviction case, we offer representation in court. And that is the bulk of the work that we do here. 14% of our work also includes folks that are trying to maintain a benefit or appeal the denial of a benefit, such as SSDI, CalFresh, SSI, and all sorts of things. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues. I will, of course, not be leaving, and I will, of course, be here to respond to your questions, but I want to turn it over to Town, who's going to talk to you about some examples of accommodations that we've dealt with recently on behalf of clients. You just hit forward.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Hello, commissioners. My name is Town Morton. I'm a staff attorney with the Legal Aid Foundation Santa Monica Work Group. I do mainly housing litigation, eviction defense, but I also run the Santa Monica DV clinics on Mondays. So I do both duality between housing and family law. Today I'm going to discuss reasonable accommodations. And then Corinne is going to join me and talk a little bit. As Kevin noted, there is a duality of reasonable accommodations. We see a lot pre-lit, and then we see a lot of reasonable accommodations during litigation. And as a strategy with community lawyering, creative lawyering, and working with community members so we can best advocate for our clients with disabilities. So I'm going to focus on the litigation aspect. And as Kevin said, 80% of our clients are housing, with a third of them having a disability. That is a large number of individuals. And so going into reasonable accommodations, and the purpose of a reasonable accommodation, it's not just a form, it's how we practice client-first advocacy and creative lawyering. And so the main purpose is so tenants and our clients can get equal access to their tenancy. So inside the courtroom, the creative, sometimes overlooked RA process is used as a tool to keep our tenants housed. So for example, I'm going to go through some different types of just cause reasons for eviction, non-payment, breach of lease, nuisance. So for non-payment cases, when the issue is tied back to the disability, we requested to move the date of when rent is paid to the date that they receive SSDI. So as accommodating their payment so they aren't effectively breaching their lease by paying after their due date. Another example is we work closely with our Human Services Division with the city and the Elderly and Disability Task Force. We've used RAs for the landlords to accept payment from third parties, financial assistance, and asking them to dismiss the UD, accept payment, and effectively keep the tenants in their housing, and many times that's intersectional with subsidized housing and keeping their subsidized housing. So moving to breach of lease and nuisance case, which is a whole different complexity. It is relating to the behavior, and that behavior is then linked to disability-related issues. For example, a common RA is for cases where decluttering, housekeeping issues, we've requested that landlords extend the deadline, or if there's mobility limits or depression or hoarding disorder, extend the deadline paired with community actors coming in with assistance of decluttering, doing decluttering workshops with age, with Wise Age and Healthy Living. Forgive me if I mess up that name. Wise and Healthy Aging. Thank you, thank you. And then, so another aspect that we use for negotiation and mediation in UD is behavioral accommodations, stipulations. And this is when we request that the landlord allows the tenant structured time to either seek treatment, or they already are, to show that they have improved, and dismiss this UD, and they can agree to a 3 months, 6 months, or some sort of timeline to allow that progress, and either set a OSC, which is a status conference, maybe 6 months down the line to make sure that the tenant is in compliance, and then record is sealed, dismiss the case, or include terms in the actual stipulation where if there is an alleged violation, that as a reasonable accommodation, they will allow the tenant time to correct and cure. So we use these as tools, and it's very subjective to our clients and their disability. You have to, so it is a very tailored, nuanced, and client-first approach that we do as attorneys for our clients. And I've seen RAs be the turning point in many evictions to help keep Santa Monica residents housed. And none are ever the same. And so next, going back to the other aspect of RAs, it's outside of the litigation realm, and I'm going to turn that over to my colleague, Corinne.
Should we stay on this slide?
You just hit forward if you want to.
Good. That's okay. We can go back to that. We should go back to that. So we're really fortunate. I'm Corinne Natashak. I'm one of the staff attorneys. We're really fortunate in Santa Monica in our work group that we're able to provide pre-UD services. So pre-eviction, we're able to help tenants before there's any court involvement. And that's kind of rare. So town provided a few examples of situations where a landlord is going to be put on notice of either a non-payment issue or a behavioral issue that could potentially lead to an eviction. And the way that we approach this with our clients is looking at it as if litigation is not necessary. It doesn't have to be necessary. A landlord often doesn't want to invest in that kind of litigation. It's very expensive for them. And of course, a tenant doesn't want to have to deal with it either. It's very stressful, and it could result in a loss of housing and a lot of other domino effects that come from that. So at the pre-UD stage, we're able to essentially facilitate the conversation between the tenant and the landlord, with a phrase that we call the interactive process. And it's probably something you're familiar with under fair housing law. This is what we have on the slide right now. We've got protections under federal fair housing law and state housing law, and that protects tenants with disabilities. And essentially the key phrase here is that a landlord and a tenant have to engage in an interactive process to figure out a solution. And that phrase is a bit open to interpretation, but we're able as a team to really help facilitate it and just encourage open lines of communication, which can get lost in these kind of dynamics because people are stressed out. It's stressful, and sometimes it's easier to just hide and avoid, and we try to get people to just get involved and be present and let's take it on. And it's definitely easier to do that in the earlier stages before you have to go to court. So we're fortunate to be able to do that. Do you want to talk about the definitions? Do you think?
Just step in real quick.
Yeah.
So to the extent that the commission would like, I didn't want to both assume what you did or did not know out of a deference to all of you. So to the extent you would like us to go through some of the highlights of the federal law that provide the accommodation and the state-like implementation of those laws, we're happy to. If you say, hey folks, we know it quite well, we're happy to move on. So I just figured I would.
No, thanks for sharing the slide. Maybe you could speak just briefly about how kind of the state of California has a little bit broader definition of disability and possibly more protections than the federal, even just, the word substantially missing.
Sure.
The key word you pointed out is
Yeah.
that the federal law is this substantial impairment, and in California, it's just a limitation. It is much broader. Case law supports this broad interpretation, even if you go further, and I will touch on it in later points of issues we are seeing with landlords implementing RAs is their own knowledge of the interactive process and meeting the definition, but the case law has shown that clients, tenants, they don't even have to say the word reasonable accommodation. Any knowledge of the disability by the landlord is enough that creates this duty for the landlord to have to join in and have a reasonable accommodation. So California law is much more broad and has much more protections under federal law.
Let's see, what next?
You have more questions on that? Happy to.
Are you guys complete with it? Do you have more slides?
We've got one more section.
We were just going to talk to you, and we can do it now or after, but we just wanted to highlight a few of the barriers, but I didn't want to, I like to come with examples. When I come to court, I like to cite the case. When I speak to all of you, and it's so nice to be here, we like to bring some client examples of what we did, but we can certainly move on. I just want to highlight the barriers, and that might inform some of your questions, and then happy to just have it be open, and we'll respond the best we can. Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, so
Oh, challenges, you've already
I
got it.
just
Okay.
I jumped ahead.
So we'll just do this briefly.
These are some of the overarching repeated issues that we see come up with our clients. So I'm addressing the sort of like umbrella topic of affordability. So this is the intersection of legal issues and healthcare, which is, tornado, volcano. It's like when both combine, it can be very costly. And there are a lot of barriers that are just simply financial with a lot of these cases. So with legal aid, something that we have to say a lot is that the scope of our representation has a stopping point, and that stopping point tends to be, I can't get you the money that you need. And that's where, with the warm handoff, we try our best to pass along our clients to as many services, third-party funding resources, any kind of city funding that we can possibly provide, but we can always use more. So here are some of the examples of the affordability issues that come up often. The first one, I think Town mentioned, one of our RA requests that we do often is requesting that a tenant is able to pay their rent at a later date if their SSDI payment comes in at a later date. So we're able to do that. However, what we can't do is increase the SSDI payment. SSDI appeals, we can do them a bit as a work group, but they're very cumbersome. They can take up to years to get an appeal of your SSDI, and at the end of the day, if it's not enough to make rent, it's not enough to make rent, and therefore leads to an unsustainable tenancy, leads to lack of housing. So that's the first one, SSDI payments, any kind of government subsidies not being enough. The second is that ADA accessible units are often really difficult and expensive to essentially install. Landlords push back a lot on the costs, and there's a lot of debate back and forth about who is supposed to front the costs. And we try our best to find the situations where the landlord can front it, but in some cases, if it's not a common space, if it's not subsidized housing, then the tenant will have to pay. And so then finding that funding is difficult. And then finally, our last one, it's kind of ties in there. If a tenant needs a modification to their homes, like a wheelchair ramp is an example that comes up a lot, or even like an elevator. Again, cumbersome, expensive. Who's going to pay for it? We try our best to find resources, but we're limited. And I think Town's going to present on the next
Say
topic.
a few, and then we'll try to.
And I have a feeling some of my accessibility issues that we see will tie into your guys' questions. So I want to do a brief summary, and then we can discuss more and go more into it. So some accessibility issues that we are seeing, as I mentioned earlier, landlords' knowledge of the issues and how much they have to join in the interactive process. And they will delay the interactive process, it will elongate, it will keep tenants and individuals in this period of not paying rent, and then the rent is piling up, them waiting and not following through, not arguing that the cost goes on to the tenant, which majority of the time, especially if there is a housing subsidy, you can trace that to federal funding, and that duty is supposed to go on to the landlord. But because of this either lack of knowledge or indifference or just refusal to do the certain accommodation or modification, it causes a lot of issues for tenants experiencing disability. And then there's the enforcement issue. So accessibility, the majority of our work is eviction defense. So outside of that, in the civil realm or enforcement of under federal, state law, what is the enforcement power? Where do individuals with disabilities go for these complaints? And effectively, what can be done? Here in Santa Monica, you have the city attorney's office, you have the city attorney's office, consumer division complaint. We refer many, many clients there weekly, if not daily. And so going along that line, need for clear city contacts, enforcement, and then even ADA units for rent-controlled tenants. We are seeing serious shortage of ADA accessible housing for long-term rent-controlled tenants. If you visit some of these 60, 50-year-old buildings that haven't been renovated, and you have 60, 70, 80-year-old disabled tenants living in these buildings, and the landlords are refusing to do any sort of repair or make it ADA accessible, and it is an epidemic here in Santa Monica. And then also some other issues that I'll just briefly touch on is emergency and disaster planning for mobility challenged tenants, and then further interagency collaboration with community actors for enforcement, for working with disabled tenants. We see a shortage in that area.
And there might not be, but just from our perspective. So anyway, I welcome any questions that you have. Go as far back or as recent as you'd like, and we will do our best to respond to them.
I always like to, I don't know much about your organization, so could you paint a little picture for me? How many people, what your mission is, how you're funded, where the money typically goes to? I sort of like to get an idea of how you're fitting in the landscape, so then my questions could be potentially more directed.
Okay. LAFLA, like I say, is nearing its 100th birthday.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. We are, I think, in our 96th year. It started as a law clinic at, I believe, USC in the late 20s. So we are one of the oldest actors in this space. Our foundation has grown. It was already large, but it grew exponentially, especially during and after COVID, when there were a lot of funding sources, of additional problems, of new issues that cropped up that we had never seen before. So that combined with the Stay Housed initiative in LA City and in LA County, and our Right to Counsel grant is under that umbrella as well. I believe we have 220 employees, 230 employees. Our funding comes from potpourri of sources. Some of it is federal, some of it is state, some of it is from the state bar, some of it is from the city of Santa Monica. There are all sorts of grants from the county of LA. So all of it goes to funding different discrete programs. They all have their own requirements. They all report separately, but it is that sort of pool along with LSC funding. LSC is the Legal Services Corporation, which is a fund created, I believe, in the late 60s or early 70s.
Nixon.
Under Nixon, correct. So, and that is funded by Congress, and it goes to fund several legal aids across the country. So we receive funding from that also, and we have for, I believe, 30 or 40 years. I hope that helps you.
Are the staff attorneys all full-time?
Yes.
Employed there? And so what would you say the organization's mission is? I mean, you said it's 100 years, so what was it and what is it evolving to based upon the needs of the community?
Well, I think Lawful's mission has always been the frontline law firm for low-income and poor folks in LA County. The programs that we've offered have probably evolved over the years, certainly long before I joined. But our mission is to change lives through direct representation. That can be for individual tenants who have a UD case and we need to represent you. It could be through invited policy work on a larger scale. It could be through impact litigation, where we bring an affirmative lawsuit on behalf of one or a series of plaintiffs for an order or an outcome that will affect many. So our job is simply to the extent that we possibly can, always be there.
Then in terms of budgeting, your budget and use of resources is primarily through people providing the services.
Correct.
Not providing any direct funds for many of the issues that were brought up already.
No, and that's a line that we like to draw. So we are not a bank, we are a law firm. And I don't mean to be flip, but I believe it creates an inherent conflict when you have a group of advocates who are representing, so say the three of us have 10 clients in a pool, and all of them at one moment need rent relief. They all have to get over this hump. They can sustain it into the future, but they just need $8,000 of back pay to get over the hump and to resolve the case and to keep their housing. For whatever reason, in this hypothetical, there's only funding for 3 of them. I betray my fiduciary duty to one client by choosing not them and paying for somebody else. And I don't think that's fair for somebody's advocate who might represent them directly, but represents a bunch of others with shared interests to be in a position to pick and choose who gets the money. And so that is one that I have not only not sought us out to become involved in, I have actively avoided my foundation being involved in that, at least here locally. I don't have any control over the rest of the county, but certainly here, that's never a position that I have sought because I never want myself or one of my advocates to have to pick and choose between what their clients' needs are. That's not our position as attorneys. It's to represent all of them zealously to the full extent of what they need. Sure.
I have a question. So for our two kind of scenarios. One, if you're a Santa Monica resident with a disability, how do they get connected to you? I got a legal issue. How can you break that down?
Sure.
For two scenarios, just I'm someone watching this meeting right now so they can get an overview. And then a second scenario, sometimes people reach out to me as a chair or commissioner, say, hey, I got this, where do I go? If you could talk about those two scenarios. And then third, do you have a website or a resource page with self-help resources that we can get on our next agenda?
Yes, let me answer the second part first, and then I'll go back. So lafla.org or lafla.org is our website. We either have our own resources or links to other places. We have a YouTube page with a number of seminars that folks can just watch. Also, Stay Housed, who we are part of, has a large number of online resources, videos, and workshops that folks can access at any time. But the videos that we post are on all types of topics, not just housing. Specifically, how do folks reach us? That is something that I, as the manager, have tried to expand, investigate every year that I have been here. So To directly respond to your question, folks can apply online. They can call our main intake line, which is the same across the county, but for Santa Monica residents, we are the only ones with a branching. So anyone across the county that we serve will call our main line and say, great, pick your language, great, we're gonna move forward. Then it says, if you live in Santa Monica, press 1. No other population gets that immediate branching, and we have our own, then it goes into our own phone queue, and I have 2 receptionists that work in my office that are on the phone nonstop, all day, every day. You can also walk into our office, as you heard. We moved last year. For a couple decades, we had an office at 5th and Colorado, right next to the train station. Yeah. That building owner decided to redevelop the land, or at least redevelop the land, which triggered a clause in our lease, and we had to involuntarily leave. So I did not want to leave. I did. Well, I had a lawyer. We didn't get evicted. We worked it out. We did okay. My point, though, is we never sought to leave that location because although it was a bit difficult to drive through because the cul-de-sac kind of ends at the exit. Anyway, it was right by the train, which was great. It was walkable to the courthouse and to here. Great location. When we were involuntarily told to leave, we sort of had to take stock of what can we afford and what's available at this moment. So we ended up at a lovely small office. It's only 3 floors at 3rd and Wilshire. So although it is not at the end of the train station, it is at the end of the promenade, which I know the city generally tries to make as accessible and reachable as possible. So I thought that was a good second place. Would I love to still be across from the train? Of course. That not only helps our clients, it frankly helps my staff. But we tried to find a place that would be reachable, would also be safe. There's lots of folks there. There's lots of bus lines that go to the promenade, so another accessible place to be. And then we're on the 3rd floor. I didn't want to be in an imposing building. I didn't want a guard to give folks a hard time. We wanted a place where folks could just call up. We'll buzz you in and you come up. It's the 3rd floor. It has a working elevator, something our last building struggled with mightily, to my frustration. It does. It does. It's quite large. We were able to build the suite out so all of our doors are wider to accommodate wheelchairs. Like we did this with disability issues in mind when we made the space. It's one long hallway. It's very wide. So no one will have a hard time navigating it, whether they come up to the elevator and wait. Large waiting room. Our old one was very small. I like to call it a postage stamp. I think it had room for 3 chairs. This one has lots of open space. We have several clients that come in with either any type of a mobility device. They have plenty of room to navigate it, to sit, to move, to negotiate it. There's no problem. Folks can always walk into our office. To my neighbor here, to Mr. Etter, we do our best to respond to the phone as soon as we hear it. I don't doubt that some folks have had to call once or twice if somebody walks away or is not there. We do get a lot of calls all day. We are up and down, making sure that folks can come up. Routinely right now, even though we could simply buzz you in and let you come up to the 3rd floor, it's a heavy door, and many of our clients haven't been to the new location. They may have been to the old one 1 to 20 times over the years, but haven't been to this one. So instead, everyone that comes, I send a person down to personally bring them up so that they're comfortable and they know how to get there and what buttons to push and where to go and all of those things. Because I think it's important to make folks feel welcome when they come to us. I hope that answers your question.
It was where the old Barnes and Noble used to be. Across the street.
Oh, we're across the street. So we're not on the promenade, we're across it.
I've one follow-up, and then I got you next. I have to manage the queue now. Just one, and thank you for that overview. Our commission has been really like future oriented and now oriented around assistive technology, artificial intelligence. So that really expands the menu of reasonable accommodations that I'm hoping is coming up in interactive processes moving forward. I mean, I used some assistive technologies that weren't even a thought even 2 years ago. So I just want to advocate that. And I know Government Code 11135 just got updated, and even their definition of effective communications has language that opens it up for AI and assistive technology. So just want to advocate to, when we're in those processes, getting people with disabilities the best stuff out there, because it's getting better every year. So when we talk in a year, the status quo will be different. So just want to advocate for that. And digital accessibility is huge. And for our folks who use screen readers, we know PDFs are trouble. So just thinking about how you can use HTML or accessible digital formats. And then I want to kick it over to Commissioner Royale.
How do I do this request?
Can you put her in
Thank
the
you
queue?
very much for your
you're in it.
presentation.
Sure.
So
put you in the
I'm
queue.
familiar with Legal Aid Foundation. With Mr. Morton, we spoke last year. So
weren't gonna say anything.
we didn't solve issue. It's still pending. So my question is, you guys in that brochure, we have a statement that you do in representation in state or federal litigation. Can you give any sort of example what issue involved and like what type of cases you have?
Sure. I can give you two examples of federal litigation and then a few examples of state litigation. So we are currently involved in federal litigation. The first one you may have heard of, it's making a lot of news, the Garcia and the LA Alliance cases in federal court, which are challenging Los Angeles's inability to create more beds and more homes for folks that are currently unhoused. That is in federal court. My colleague was in court this morning arguing a motion. That is an impact case that we brought on behalf of several folks who were unhoused on Skid Row because the city's been incredibly slow, not the city of Los Angeles has been incredibly slow building out the beds that they promised that they would do in the settlement that we made. So that is one case in federal court.
I wish you the best luck.
I do too. We have an excellent attorney on it, so I feel very confident.
Good.
Secondly, we just highlighted a resident of LA County who I believe was denied their unemployment. We appealed several times over several years, appealing it to every level, including federal court, where he was ultimately won his benefits and paid back for, I think, 7 or 8 years of non-payment. Yeah, it's a fantastic story. So we do those cases. Currently in state court, you know, I'm going to exclude all the eviction defense and the family law because those are cases where we represent clients in their ongoing case. I think what you're asking, and correct me if I'm wrong, is affirmative litigation in state court. So right now we have several cases that are going on. LAFLA joined a group of law firms that brought the first private action for rent gouging in the wake of the fires. We filed that case against several landlords across the county who raised their rent in excess of 10% during the state of emergency, some up to 40%, 2 days after the fire. So we are currently resolving that case very favorably right now. I'm working on that case. We also have brought several writs against the city for housing developments that they have refused to build or actions they've taken in local meetings and that we feel have gone beyond the scope of the power of those boards, and we're challenging that. So those would be examples of affirmative cases. As far as other types of cases in state court, we represent clients, like I say, in eviction defense cases. We provide some full scope rep in custody cases and domestic violence cases. We provide representation in administrative hearings for benefits. We provide representation in admin hearings for immigration, for green card and naturalization, for removal, for those things. I hope that answers your question. It's a little tough. We have tons of cases, especially in state court.
Well, I'm asking because honestly, I don't know what's wrong with me. I was trying to use your service since like mid 20, like, I don't know, 2012. And I'm always was denied. I won by myself a lots of issue through court, administrative court, state court, etc., etc. So, and I was so frustrated about this. Aline Franca, if she's still in your office, I would say like, thank you for having her She was helpful. So it's
the office next
just
to mine.
like special thanks for her. So also, this brochure introducing that you can actually speak with clients through Zoom and kind of like visit their home for signature.
Sure.
I never even heard of that option.
Well,
So is that somewhere on a website?
yes, it is.
Is that something new?
It's, I guess what you mean by new. Let me give you an example of some of the remote services that at least my office offers. I don't want to speak for the whole foundation across the county. I would like to try to be specific to the services that we offer residents here. So, we operate the DV clinic in the courthouse. We have done so for decades. That's always been open in person 3 or 4 days a week. We have attorneys there. You can walk up and get assistance applying for a DV restraining order. We really like that work. During COVID, when the courts were closed or folks didn't feel safe going out, I transitioned it to a Zoom clinic. When the courts reopened and our offices reopened, I didn't want to lose that different form of outreach. And because it serves a different population. So you have folks in DV that are looking to leave the house. I want to get away from the person that I'm with. I need a safe place to go fill this out, file it, hopefully get protection from the court. That's what the in-person clinic is perfect for. You also have the opposite. Folks that don't feel safe or are not allowed to leave their home or are imprisoned in their home or have a disability and can't leave their home even if they wanted to. In that sense, I run a weekly Zoom where I sign folks up for that also. I have folks just call in and use it as a conference call. People log in on their phone, their home computer. It's just another way of reaching folks, and that's the approach that I take to all of our cases. With regards to housing, we partner with the El Centro Law Clinic at UCLA. We've partnered with them for years. During the school year, which we are right now, every week we have one in-person housing clinic, which is going on right now as we speak on Wednesday nights. That's in person. And every Friday, we offer it by Zoom for the same reason, for folks that either are unable or just don't feel comfortable coming to the office, don't want to leave, can't leave, offer you a different option to get legal advice on what is happening right now. So you don't have to wait. We do that every Friday. We use students to increase the capacity. So in that sense, a law student will meet with you in a breakout room. They will consult with a lawyer. The legal advice all comes from an attorney. The in-person right now is at 3rd and Wilshire, yes.
So there is a weekly clinic?
Yes, we do it in person every Wednesday night, and then we do it by Zoom on Fridays.
That was different than when you were at.
Nope, we did it there too.
Really?
Yeah, we used to do 2 in person. So it was 2 per week in person because Zoom wasn't a thing in my life or anyone else's. So we did every Tuesday, Thursday for a while. Well,
I've been to you guys before, nobody ever told me about.
Here's,
Is there a line or you have to?
so, go ahead, please, if you had another comment.
Do you have to kind of like submit your request for participating in a Zoom meeting or like in person?
No, we often try to offer it. So when we look at our incoming cases, I try to identify good cases for clinics because a clinic isn't always the right setting to deal with every problem. And that's true whether it's virtual or in person, right? A clinic is really great for advice and very limited service. Lots of folks call with questions like, hey, my door squeaks and it won't get fixed. What are my rights? Fair enough. Let's talk to you about it. But we probably only need to have about a half hour to talk about that, and I've answered your question. So I try to identify cases that can be easily resolved from the legal side or from the accessibility side. If this person can't come in or has a problem with the phone or something else, how can we accommodate them? And those are the 2 main groups that I use to fill the clinics. Because I think those are both, they increase the efficacy of the clinics. We can get through the cases faster. And it tries to address as many needs. I try to leave a few slots open for folks that need that help. It's not a choice, they actually need it.
So,
Go ahead.
So the prerequisite for the 2 different clinics is if there would be a phone call before that, or can you just show up?
Right, so we try to schedule appointments. And that's for a couple of reasons. And then I will get to one more clinic that is a walk-up, but I don't want to get off topic. Our in-office housing clinics, I try to sign up for appointments only because I want to guarantee at least a certain number of folks that are coming. Because we have students that are driving from Westwood or from wherever they live, and they're ready to talk to folks. So I like to sign up at least 4 to 6 folks. So there's usually at least 1 or 2 that don't show up. Like, it's just the nature of a clinic. But I like to try to get enough folks there, so that we can solve as many problems as possible, but separately make it worth the trip for the students so they all get some great experience too. We get to help some clients. I like to think of it as kind of a win-win when we get to do that. My last point is, at Virginia Park, we have run a no appointment, walk-up clinic for years. It's advertised by the park and on our website. It's the 3rd Wednesday of every month. The park just gives us 2 rooms in the park center. We set up with some laptops and usually some law students, if we have them. And whoever walks in the door, we try to handle it. Some months I get 2 or 3, some I have 15. So that is a no appointment, no anything. You don't even have to come to an office or a courthouse. We're at a park in the community trying to be as reachable as possible.
Are they under renovation?
The
cemetery?
No, we're not. No, we're in the Park Center building. So the Thelmatary is its own thing. We are behind the library. There's like an administrative office. It's where the boxing ring is and the dance studio. I think there's a youth center right behind it. Anyway, yes.
Another question.
Sure.
It's about reasonable accommodation request for disabled individual.
Okay.
So, and that engagement of with like landlord in that interactive process. It's not always work like this, right?
Well, that's the hurdle, right? Because anybody, I can tell you what the law says. It's far more difficult to compel them to do it, right?
Right. And what to do if they're not cooperative?
Well, there's a handful of things that we can do. There's a fair housing complaint. There's a tenant harassment complaint, right? So there are certain avenues to go down to.
Will you be able to assist a person with filing those complaints, or you just kind of like advising and providing link for them to fill out everything themselves?
I think it's entirely dependent on the availability of our staffing,
Yeah,
the clients. I mean, that's true with everything. That's a practical reality of the work that we do. So we have a city of 90,000, and I have working for me 6 staff attorneys. So, it just
6 in Santa Monica.
correct.
So that's my next question. You have guys kind of like limited ability basically to assist everybody who like calling you, right? So, and kind of like protect those people from unlawful action. You must turn somebody kind of like on the side because of the limited ability, limited staff, limited finances for your organization. Is that right?
I'm not sure I understand your question, and I don't want to speak out of turn.
I'm saying that like not everybody get the service. Even if those people had some sort of issue, which kind of like violates that person's rights, so probably somebody will be put it on a side.
I don't know what that means. I would never put a client on the side. I don't respond to hypotheticals
Well,
for that reason.
okay,
but hold on. May I please respond? Right. So here's the thing. I don't know if you're in a veiled way kind of asking about your own case or somebody else. Everyone that comes to us gets some level of service. If you qualify, you get some level of service. What the level is, I can never guarantee to you at any time. It's based on a variety of factors. I have never had a client that qualified for, or a prospective client that qualified for our help, where a conflict or some other ethical barrier existed to us helping them, that I just said, and it's within the scope of the work that we do. No, I'm just not going to help you, go away. I've never done that. Everybody gets some level of service. But it has to be a type of case that we do.
You do in those cases, but you're not doing them like for everybody. And there is like some sort of difficulty to communicate for people with disability. I'm not talking about myself only. I was homeless for extended period of time. I tried to help people who like around me to get a house. And I'm gonna tell you, I had like difficult time to knock on your door to obtain like any sort of letter, anything. So not only for me, for people whom I trying to help. So at the present time, last year we had some sort of discussion. It's about reasonable accommodation. Landlord failed to cooperate, and that's issue just like in the air. After that, I tried to contact your office several times because there is issue involved people who like have severe disability. They do have mobility issue, and they're not accommodated
How so?
for years on a term of parking, which is like, it's a basic. So it's like nothing complicated there. There is $9 million case just recently won by a disabled woman who was for a year denied accessible parking in her building. So just like recent case, 2024, nobody in Santa Monica, neither legal aid, neither city attorney interested to handle anything like this. They're not interested to even kind of like ask for do people have some more like evidence that their rights violated. So, and it has been going on since, I don't know, like 2013, 14. So, I mean, in those cases, it's kind of like, I understand you guys have limited resources to kind of like help everybody. But if your organization cannot help people, city attorney office cannot help them, what the next step, where those people have to go? I mean, there is like a lots of challenges those people facing in everyday basis. They do have mobility issue and they're not accommodated. So where they should go?
I would be happy to speak with you about this when the meeting's over in the future. Like I say, I don't know.
We
that this
can
is
make like
So let me, I want to ask a question and I want to pass it to Chair Gordon for,
Please.
go for it.
Just a quick question.
Please.
Mr. Etter was just served with a 30-day. Where do we go from here? I know he needs legal aid. I know he needs to speak to one of you or somebody else. How quickly, if you call the office tomorrow about getting an appointment or?
I mean, sure. So he could do an intake as early as tomorrow morning. And he could do that, as I discussed with the rest of the council, through several ways. It could be in person at the office. It could be through the phone line. I can't speak to how long or short the wait is, but an intake can be done like immediately. If he has the notice and can bring it with him, that would be supremely helpful. Because one of the gaps in timing is that a person will do an intake and claim, I was served with like this notice and I got a letter that says this. We haven't seen it yet. And I've learned from practicing law for 20 years that I would rather give you no advice than bad advice. So I do not want to speculate on what it might say, what a problem might be. I don't know. I need to read it. So to the extent that he can have his notice with him, supremely helpful, so that we can make a copy and have it. And then it's whatever is best for him. So 30 days will be the notice. We'll have to see what the notice says and what it's asking him to do. No lawsuit would be filed until the expiration of that, depending on what the type of notice is. And then there would be a period of him having to be served and file an answer. So there's a procedure that goes on.
I don't know if you recall that we were.
Chair Gordon, can I have you guys connect offline because I don't want
Yes,
to discuss
happy to. And
personal
yeah,
stuff.
I would like to try to keep.
I was just curious about the procedures.
Yeah, no,
We'll deal with
well, I want to keep it generalized rather than individualized. And just Mike, I have a related question, just
Please.
if I'm a person with a disability in Santa Monica and I want to maximize, do you have like a guide of like what's best to make the most out of our intake, or is that on your website? If I'm trying to connect with you, how can I be most prepared to get the most out of our first interaction, or is that something you learn on the first call, or do you have some self-help? Because I know you guys, capacity is always an issue. I want to get the most bang out of the limited resource. How can I do that as a person with a disability in Santa Monica?
I would say the way that you would do that is probably the same way that anyone else would, because I think my advice would not be disability dependent. It would be for any client, and it would be similar to what we were talking about. So I agree, bring it back to the general. But for any client to just have whatever documents or whatever, if there's any written instrument related to what their problem is, it could be the lease, it could be some text messages, whatever it is that either informs how they got to us or things that they've said, or things that have been said to them by a neighbor, by a landlord, by a spouse, by whatever. That is incredibly helpful. Does that exist on our website? I don't know. But I can certainly tell you, and I can work on making that a part of our outreach that we do to make it clear to folks that the more information you come with initially, the better. And then it's going to depend on the mode of intake. And this goes to what we were talking about, but also to your question, which is, if you were to say call in, you will probably reach a receptionist who will complete the intake. Of course, we have eligibility requirements for all of our grants. And then that is put into a queue that is monitored by paralegals, by myself, by my staff, and then we would reach back out to you. So I don't know that you would call and a lawyer would pick up the phone and say, hi, this is LAFLA. Kind of wish we were in a world where that could happen, but there's just the sheer number of calls in the county. I don't know that that's possible. Whereas if we could quickly get you signed up for a clinic, or if you walked up at Virginia Park, there's a lawyer right there. So a bit of it is intake route dependent, and there's not a lot I can do except for advertise who will be at certain things. And we do try to get to the folks that are in our intake queue as fast as possible so that we can set them up with whatever the best way is. If we can conduct most of the business just over the phone so they don't have to do anything, we'll do that. If you can email it, great. And we can just talk to you about it. So that's for everybody, but specifically with a disability, if leaving is an issue or if gathering things like is an issue, we will come to your house. We had a paralegal at a client's house this week. It's not a thing that I advertise because I don't see it as a service. I just see it as part of the work that we do for our clients. If that's the need that needs to be met, then we do it.
Well, do you guys have time for a few more questions? I have a couple in the queue, but I want to be mindful of folks this time.
Sure. That's a great point. So my colleague from the city, I just want to make I'm sure you know, do want to make a quick point, and then I'm happy to respond to other questions. But part of this, excuse me?
You didn't answer on my question. It's like I asked if, for example, legal aid not available for person, city attorney not an option for a person with disability, where they should go for obtain any sort of help.
Can you maybe speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to the capacity and how the city is looking to address that, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is T. Martin, for those of you that I don't know. I am a senior analyst that works for the city of Santa Monica in our homelessness prevention and intervention division. I'm a part of the team that manages the city's partnership with Legal Aid Foundation. So I work with them on both of their city contracts. So one thing that I wanted to bring into the picture, because I think we're having a lot of conversations about capacity, right? There's clearly really incredible work that LAFLA does in the community. And like all organizations, like Commissioner Royale mentioned, capacity constraints are real. I will say, out of all of the agencies that the city funds through our human services grant programs, LAFLA has the best structure set up to ensure that everyone that reaches out gets some form of support. That's not true of a lot of agencies. For a lot of agencies, if you don't meet certain criteria, they just say, we can't do anything. So I think LAFLA is, very committed to some level of service for everyone. That being said, there's still capacity constraints, and our city and our city council has recognized that. And that's why in March of this year, March 11th, our city council approved the Renters Protection Program, which includes an expansion of our right to counsel services that we currently administer with Legal Aid Foundation. So that Renters Protection Program, which is funded by local Measure GS, which is a tax transfer measure in Santa Monica, will provide up to $2 million of initial funding for expanding LAFLA's capacity to work on housing cases. So that will almost certainly more than double staff capacity for those kinds of cases, because we see that there's great work being done, very impactful work, but there is greater need. And that's why the city is speaking to that and investing in that through this right to counsel expansion that is currently being administered and will be implemented by March of 2026. So I just thought that'd be helpful information for recognizing that there's an acknowledgement that we want to increase the capacity of these services so that Kevin and his team have more capacity to work with more residents earlier and earlier in their cases, whatever they may be. So, yeah.
T, thank you.
I'm gonna jump in real quick and just answer one question.
Answer her. Hold on.
It's just about the affirmative cases.
Go ahead.
This is who I referred
Okay.
to.
Oh, hold on. One second.
Oh. Welcome, attorneys, lead attorney, Kevin,
Yes,
for
sir.
coming to see us here.
Happy to be invited. Thank
It's
you.
commendable, and it's a great thing that you have been here 100 years. Still, people don't know.
I look
that
pretty
you're
good
here.
for 100, don't I? And I'm going gray.
We'll
but
get there
I'm
someday.
trying my best.
Don't worry.
Hey, in these times, who hasn't gone a little gray?
Yes, indeed, someday. So, you're not on the oath.
I know.
Everything you spoke is true for recipients of your services. It's amazing I'm up here listening to you, and I was a recipient of your services in the past. And I think that the issue was resolved very well. And were it not for LAFLA, perhaps the case could have gone the other direction. So this is very commendable. And some of the questions that were asked and the answer that you gave negates the question I was going to ask. It wasn't necessary anymore. For instance, if a landlord is recalcitrant, you ask them to put an elevator, they wouldn't do it because they give excuses. So where do you go for this kind of issue? And another thing is that I have seen in this city, I've been here 45 years in this city, and I have seen where a unit of 200 apartments did not have a disabled parking. And this is atrocious. I don't get it. We're here as advocates for the people, and yet some of our clients perhaps did not know what the services cover. And just about, like you said, almost everybody comes to you, get some level of service. You're right about come to 5th and Colorado, press the button, and we'll buzz you in. And that is very true. I know that for a fact because I was there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. What I want to do before I forget, I'd love to be able to get your business card.
Okay.
Good.
You are not the first one this evening to ask for it, and I am happy to give it to you as long as I run out. What a bad
Okay,
lawyer.
get-
No, that's
get-
wrong.
get-
I have one more.
Oh, you only have one.
I am derelict in my attorney duties. Aren't we always supposed to have at least 10 cards at the ready and toss? No.
Well, you got one,
I,
so
I'm
I'm
happy
keep it.
happy to give you this.
I'll hold on to it.
Okay.
And then you. Great. And Yeah, I mean, I actually was surprised that you had an actual legal clinic. That's one thing I will say. I've been to the old one there on Olympic. They never told me. I wish I'd known that there was a clinic. How long was the Thelma Terry Clinic? How long has that been around?
We
I'm
don't
not
do
the
it
Thelma
at,
Terry, I
but
mean the
at
other
Virginia
one.
Park.
At Virginia Park, yeah.
Here's what I can tell you. I can't tell you the year that it started. I joined LAFLA in 2018. The Virginia Park Clinic has undergone some evolution over time in my effort to meet community needs. And it continues, right? Because I'm certainly not infallible. But I will just tell you very, very briefly. When I joined LAFLA in 2018, the Virginia Park Clinic was an immigration clinic, which is still vital information.
It was just for that specific thing.
Right. It was in Pico neighborhood. It was meant to be in the community, to answer questions, for folks. And it's a great service. And it's still legal work that the foundation does. But it was always very lightly attended. And then it obviously closed for COVID. And when we reopened, I was, once again, looking for ways. I don't want to close doors for immigration services,
the bottom
but
line
how
is-
do I expand it? And so I turned it into a housing clinic because we routinely get folks coming in all the time, with a housing this. The housing could also be related to family law. The housing could be related to immigration, but housing far and wide is the biggest issue that we are confronting here now. And so if that changes in the future, which I would love that to be true, I will change the nature of the clinic to meet that future need. But right now, that's what it is. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so it was very narrow. It was just for immigration and housing.
Originally, yes, just immigration.
Because I'm from the Bay Area. They had something, Bolt Law School had East Bay Community Law Center when the dot-commers were really doing so much destruction in 90, because it started up in the Bay Area.
Right.
They did have that, but then you could also, for eviction, just triaging that way. But then their clinics were also good as far as if you had problems with how to collect judgments or things of that nature. But you haven't opened up to that as far as the clinic goes for various different things?
I haven't, and that's only because I like to, so when we get volunteers from the private bar or law students, I like to tell them, here's at least the universe that you're going to have to deal with. And so it's easier to make it topic-based.
Okay.
I will say, though, to your collection question, I ran an internal small claims work group at LAFLA for a few years when we had a time-limited grant from the state bar. We produced quite a bit of materials and a ton of recorded webinars, all of which are available on our website for free, about how do I bring a small claim against my landlord for a security deposit? How do I collect on a judgment? How do I bring my own case? Because in small claims, there is no attorney. So we have a whole host of resources for that specifically.
Yeah, maybe, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but,
It's okay, you can.
if you want to, get in conjunction with UCLA law students, because I think the law students might get not extra credit, but it look good on the resume. So for a variety of different subjects of the law, and they could come in. I know that at Bolt, they had a supervising lawyer that come in with the law students, so they get kind of an idea of all different areas of the law. I am a liaison for both the Housing Commission, that's Chair Gordon, and no relation. Somewhere we're related.
Somewhere down the line.
I feel like we're related. And then there is, I also have been attending ARB, the Architectural Review Board, and also all the others. So I'm a liaison to give everybody kind of, there's some really, I understand what you said, the mom and pop landlords, I remember, they're not the bad guys. What's going on, right? Because it's, if you have a place that's been built 100 years ago, you can't grandfather in wheelchair. I live in a place that was built in 1917, but the problem is this. There is a tsunami of demolition permits going up all over town. And I've been going to ARB, Architectural Review Board. It is really scary because they are fast tracking things. I don't know if you want to consider going to these. They are, it's coming from Newsom and Scott Wiener and Rob Bonta. The Architectural Review Board cannot refuse to approve anything. They are only allowed to do aesthetic things like tile color, because if they do, You know, if they say it's not ADA required, Newsom and Bonta and Weiner are going to sue the city of Santa Monica. So they have to approve these things, which is really bad. But the thing of it is they gutted CEQA. I don't know if you know what CEQA is.
Yes, I do.
They are, been going to these, they want to build 770 units up at 26 Bergamot Station. I don't know if you're familiar with there. No parking, and that includes wheelchair parking. Also, when I listen to these architects, there is nothing that says anything about wheelchair accessibility in these huge monoliths that they want to build. They don't look like they're ADA compliant at all. If you, I just look at the outside, I can't read the blueprints. I do have all the blueprints for them, but I've heard things where they wanted to get rid of fire exits, have only one fire exit for 5 stories. That they got that, in addition to the fact that there's no mention of the elevator being any kind of a wheelchair elevator approved, just a normal elevator, which doesn't make sense even if you didn't have a disability. You need at least a freight type of elevator to move furniture up there. So I mean, it's just very bizarre. I've got the blueprints. I can't read them. You can get them.
Commissioner Gordon, is there a question in there?
Well, I'd like to be able to speak. I've been very patient, okay? Okay, so I would like to be able to tell them what's going on, okay? That is my right. So I just want to keep you abreast of that. I don't know if I know you're stretched pretty thin if you ever want to sit in on these things, because I know this is way too much, but I just want to let you know what they're doing with these new buildings, is that they don't sound like they're ADA compliant. And what we could do maybe because we're getting steamrolled. We got CEQA that's getting gutted. There's something known outside affordable housing. I don't know if you're familiar with what redlining is.
I am.
Okay, so which is modern day redlining. So they're getting an exemption from that. So there's nothing that requires them by state law. State law saying it's okay for them to redline. It's basically what's happening. So that's, I don't know if we can talk about it or.
We can always talk about it. And I don't want to cut you off, but so not every lawyer does every type of law. Just
No, I know.
You don't go to the brain doctor for your heart surgery, right?
No,
Even though
I
they're both
understand.
doctors. No, but I appreciate your comment because it's directly adjacent to a lot of the work that we do, although I don't know that it's directly within the scope of the work that we're
Yeah.
funded to do right now. It doesn't mean, though, that myself and my staff shouldn't know exactly what's happening. So I appreciate your comment. Do you know if those meetings are, like the council meetings are online? If I miss it, I can watch it. Are those those meetings also watchable? Because I would be happy to
I
watch them
believe
and follow
they're
up with you.
on the City of Santa Monica YouTube page, if they're
Okay.
available.
Yep, then you can have my card. I'm happy to talk to you. I can't promise that what I can or can't do for you directly.
No, just brainstorm, or if there's, anything, because rather than going off after these poor little mom and pop people who don't have the deep pockets, who just really have own little properties, the villain here are these architects and these developers that are coming in that are doing what they're doing. So I'm sorry, there's something I said that was, I guess you.
Oh, no.
No, everything okay? Yeah, so, I mean, because that's the thing, is we got to stop I'm saying that's way over your area, but, what we can do maybe to organize as far as the soft side of affordable housing, the redlining, and to at least to make sure that they should be compliant with the buildings they do have, even though they don't want to put undesirables in those buildings, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and let me just 3 quick points in response to that. First of all, I think that all of you will find, I hope T would agree with this, that if any of you were to reach out to me directly, I answer my phone and I will talk to you. I don't always have a solution or one that you might like, but I have never refused to engage a member of the community, whether they're a client or not, in an ongoing problem, because I think it's important. So if any of you want to reach out to me, please do. I encourage you. Secondly, just because it's not work that might be funded by my office here doesn't mean it's not work touched on by the rest of my huge and very talented foundation. So even if it's not, say, work or case that I directly would be working on, that doesn't mean there's not support that LAFLA can provide.
That you
right?
might
I want
know
to be right. I want to be clear about that we are one small group in a very large foundation that works in a ton of areas over a huge geographic area of this county. But I lean on them. They're a fantastic resource. And my last point is, even if all that weren't true, which it is, even if it weren't, I'm a resident and I like to know what's happening
Oh,
in
you
my
live
city.
in Santa Monica?
I do. I walked over.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
I take this very seriously.
Yeah,
Both
okay.
what you're saying and what all of you have said. Trust me, I take it extremely seriously, not because it's my job, but it is, but also because I live here. So I am personally vested in the problems that you are raising.
It's very alarming what's going on. So you know lawyers in different areas of the law.
Correct.
You could probably bounce something off and
Correct.
see if, that would be great. Yeah, I want to get your business
He's a tricky one, watch him.
card.
I have, any last questions? I have Commissioner Royale. Does anyone?
Thank you for like answering a lot of our questions. So I know you're tired, but I have two more
But
questions.
don't look at, I'm doing okay.
No, you look good.
No problem.
So here is in your presentation, policy and legislative advocacy.
Right.
And here you're saying that you push local, state, and federal agency officials for changing to law and policy harming clients. So can we as a commission or like private individual can call you and obtain those service? For example, if we like a commission all together have some issue which we like to push through city, can you help us with those legal aspects and just kind of like word it properly in a legal language?
This is a great question. And it allows me to point out one of the unfortunate strings that are attached with our LSC federal funding, because every funding has rules attached to it. Federal funding, even though we don't use LSC funds for this work group, we're funded by the city, it's a foundational requirement when you accept the LSC funds. Here's why I'm saying this. We can't engage in grassroots advocacy on our own. We can, and this goes for, I believe, you as the commission, the city council, if we are invited to comment. If we are invited, we are going to work on this thing and we would invite you to discuss it with us, make a comment, or come and present your thoughts at a thing. We can do that. It's a small distinction, but for us, funding-wise, it's an important one. So as long as we have an official request for comment, happy to talk to you about it.
Yeah, for example, like just Commissioner Gordon just pointed out that there is some sort of, issue with a new construction. So we would like to kind of like address everything to city. Can you help us to just look through all this project and kind of point it out and help us to put everything together to submit to city?
I can't commit to that only because
No?
I don't know that I would give you personally the best advice because that's not my area of law.
I see.
So, but no. But I appreciate your question. So this is where it comes to, there are others in my foundation that do other types of law. We also have many partnerships in the private bar. So there are some cases that come to us that we think are important and are on behalf of low-income individuals, folks with a disability, folks that qualify for our services, but we don't have the ability, resources, or capacity to take it. We will sometimes then seek pro bono counsel from a private firm. So it's a case through LAFLA and monitored by LAFLA, but also assisted by a private firm who's decided, you know what, we need some hours here to report to the bar. So we're going to donate 10 free hours of work on this case, and we're going to help you for free because it's a LAFLA case, even though you're being helped by whatever huge law firm name, right? So there are a lot of ways that it could go. That's why I said, to take your question, literally, could I help you with all of those things? I don't know you'd want me to. I don't know. But could LAFLA do our best to either help in the parts that we can or try to link you with the folks, that can? Yes, I think that's certainly a thing that we would do.
You could get us to work in conjunction with a firm that does pro bono type stuff.
Potentially. And what I don't want to speak out of turn is, and I'm sorry, I see your question, I don't think that you're done yet, but I want to be careful about representing what, we could do on behalf of the commission versus an individual, right? So if an individual or group of individuals from one building or something have a case, that's easier to present to a pro bono partner than the city of Santa Monica, through a commission created by local statute, would like council's help. You have a city attorney and they have their own outside counsel that they get help from too. So I don't want to run afoul of those rules and tell you, sure, I'll get the commission a lawyer, because that's also not how that works. But to the extent that people have questions or want to come up with a creative solution, or at least, even if it's not a solution, even if it's a 10-step problem and you come to me at step 1 and we at least can get you to step 3, at least we got to step 3. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I can't fix every problem. Certainly wish I could. I am committed to working with whoever comes through our doors with whatever, the problem is, and at least trying to advance their interests. Sorry.
One last question.
I just want to provide a little bit more context that I think will be helpful.
Sure.
And thank you so much, Kevin, for speaking to kind of Lawflow's capacities in those areas.
Sure.
And you said it right there at the end. Just what I wanted to add on was our city attorney's office. So you can think of, Lawflow, like Kevin's mentioned, is contracted by the city to represent low-income tenants in the community. Our city attorney's office exists to represent the city of Santa Monica.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that some of the points that you're raising would be it'd be excellent to go to our city attorney's office for, because they are specifically tasked with representing the city and advising its local bodies like this.
Right.
So just wanted to provide that context.
And that's what I try to say. If it's a group of tenants or an individual or something, happy to advise that group. The commission, you have a lawyer. They're very good. I work with a number of them.
The city attorney doesn't have anything to do with what's going on with these plans, though, right? I mean, I know the city attorney, one of the city attorneys sits in, the deputy city attorney does sit in with ARB, Architectural Review Board, and I think they just approve it. So the city, like Jonathan Irwin Frank's great. He's been a huge help to me. He's a great guy. I love him. But as far as this thing with getting them to comply in the offsite, do you think the city attorney might, I don't know. I think their hands are tied, right?
Yeah, so I think to what I was trying to speak to was if the commission is trying to prepare, a statement, right? And they're wanting to make sure that it's legally sound, like that's something that the city attorney's office is there.
Cynthia can guide us where to go with this?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
correct. But I think you're right in the sense that, some of these specific issues that you're raising, the city attorney's office can consult with other departments like planning, for example, who would be able to help inform them on issues that you're speaking to with this board. That being said, I'm not an expert at all. I would love to learn so much more from you about that board, but that I think would be the right place. Yes. Yeah. I think that'd be the right place within the city to direct those concerns.
Last question.
There you go.
Last question.
Yeah. So, I know that if your organization cannot help, city attorney's office cannot help, you guys referring everybody to civil rights division, for example. If those cases match, there's what they represent you, right?
The harassment cases?
The cases which, for example, like civil rights issue, reasonable accommodation, that can include a civil rights violation, right? So, and if your organization cannot handle that issue, City of Santa Monica Attorney Office cannot help with that issue either. So the client should go to Civil Rights Division.
So you can make a complaint.
Go ahead.
Yes.
With FIHA. You can make a civil complaint federally. There's advice that would be given that is one route. The other is you can seek a private civil attorney based on, you would have to seek their counsel. There's also other resources that Corinne can briefly discuss.
Well, that's the alternative to a private civil attorney who's going to work on a contingency fee, likely. There are some nonprofits popping up. There's one called the Los Angeles Center for Community Law and Action, LACLA, LACCLA, and they take affirmative cases pro bono. So my clients who've been coming to me who have that next level that I can't take them to, and they need to pursue an affirmative case against their landlord, I refer them to LACLA. And there's a lot of great attorneys there. I know them. I've worked with them. They're popping up. They just need more funding.
And I will just lastly say that, our office has historically also done affirmative cases on behalf of residents. It's just because we've always been fairly small in staff and they're so time and resource intensive that we either have one going on at a time. So it's not that it's work we're not capable of or can't do. It's just not something we can do en masse right now and meet the immediate need of homelessness prevention. Something has to give at some point.
So what needs to be done to expand your service and help you to have like more attorneys, bigger issue representations? So what do you think can help you to kind of like be bigger and do like very great work? So
Well, T actually spoke to it, and I think the expansion of the Rights Council program, it's the expansion of one program, but it feeds multiple issues. Let me briefly explain what I mean. Right now, I have a team of kind of 3 attorneys on the HSGP grant and only 2 dedicated right to counsel attorneys, and everybody. The Human Services Grants Program. We've had this grant in Santa Monica. We've been in the community for 3 decades. We've maintained a grant with through the HSGP program, and depending on staffing, I've had between 2 and 4 at any one time if there are vacancies. Separately, I have a right to counsel grant, the existing right to counsel program. Without getting too in the weeds about this, it started a few years ago as 1 attorney. It expanded to 2. It's been wildly successful. And through the homelessness strategic plan, calls for an expansion of those services by March of next year, which is what T talked about. So the immediate response is doubling that team to handle evictions. So the first point is, great, we can take more UD cases, more cases at the notice stage, hopefully keep more folks housed, or if we can't, find them a soft landing into the next place where they can live safely. Here's what else it does, though, even though it's not funding like the HSGP program, is that it frees up the existing attorneys that are doing a ton of eviction work. It frees them up from not having to do all of those cases because we have a larger staff doing that work, that now those attorneys, in my view, and this is a plan I'm working out as we look to an implementation in March. So happy to talk to you about this in a few months as it rolls out. But that, to me, frees up that part of my staff to do more community clinics, take on more affirmative cases, do the other types of work besides eviction defense that, frankly, overwhelms our housing work right now by necessity. But by expanding that staff, you also free up other folks to do more great work separate from eviction defense, which I think is what you're trying to get at. It won't happen immediately or overnight, and it only would free up 1 to 2 attorneys. I don't have a team of 20, but step 1 is step 1. It's better than not having step 1 at all. So that's my plan, and it's my hope to increase the types of cases that we do, not just for evictions, but for all the other housing issues that our residents face all the time. And that's the road that we're on.
Are there some sort of law which prevents to evict elderly, disabled individual? Are they had some sort of like a 6 months frame to kind of keep staying on housed instead of like be kicked off immediately after they not able for some reason make payment?
I'll let my colleagues jump in if they have ideas, but in short, there are some exceptions, but not nearly the number that you would hope, and not nearly what I think all of us here would want. So
So they can keep those.
and they can and they do. But let me speak to a few, and then I'm going to let Town take the mic for just a moment. But there are certain exceptions for folks that are facing eviction. The court can grant up to a 40-day stay. They can't grant any longer. There are exemptions for parents who have school-age kids during the school year, that they can at least wait till the school year is over. So there are some protections built in generally for tenants. And I will say that, you know what, that completely ran away with the spoon.
Yeah.
I'm going to let Town jump in here, and if I remember, I'll come back at the end.
It depends on the type of eviction. So in Santa Monica, there's just cause reasons for eviction, and then within that, no cause needed. So going to the aspect of a disability, it can, like for an Ellis Act eviction, it will, if you're elderly or disabled, it extends the notice period from
4 months.
4 months to a year. However, this is then for, you brought up non-payment, and Kevin mentioned some relief from forfeiture, 40-day stay. There's also 1179 argument for hardship. And going back into what I previously presented on was reasonable accommodation and using creative lawyering in that aspect. And you said an elderly disabled individual, that's where I would look at the case, the facts, and relate the reasonable accommodation to the disability, requesting dismissal or allow payment from a third party or become equal and use a reasonable accommodation to sustain the tenancy. So it's very case-specific, fact-specific, and also depends on the type of eviction.
There's one new one too that just passed in October that was just signed. It's, I think, AB 246, and it's specific to if there's an issue with Social Security payments, if someone's been terminated from Social Security, or if it's, then we are allowed to then ask for a stay of up to 6 months, which is a lot of time for us. It gives us a lot of time to work with the tenant to find new things. So that's brand new. We get to use it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. I just want to say thank you for being so generous, answering all your questions. This is just the beginning of a relationship. I hope we'll be back. We'll get your contact. We're going to have questions. People reach out. We'll reach out, and we're glad to just be oriented and know how to connect. Thank you so much, and really appreciate you being so generous with your time, and we'd love to see you again.
Thank you.
Well, I put that down, you didn't tell me that.
Hey, why don't we talk in the hallway, Harvey? I'm happy to. Folks, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kevin, don't forget your
The committee
briefcase.
started on this homeownership equity. The society is falling apart, and there's nothing been done by this damn city at all. Either this disability or the housing commission. I've been going on for a damn year. It's outrageous.
Thank you, Commissioner. I was like,
Thank you so much for taking
Yeah.
all the time you do. You guys are great.
no problem.
I got it right here. There's all kinds of snaky stuff. I can't trust them. They evicted the next woman the other day without.
So I'm going to switch the agenda around a little bit and come back. I'm going to go to 3C, just announcements. Okay, sorry, I'll go to 3B, introduction of Santa Monica Housing Commission Chair Gail Gordon. Thank you for being here, Gail.
Thank you. This was very fortuitous for us because we have so many similar issues. Oh, I think I killed it. Did I kill it? Okay. We also have many disabled and senior clients who are constantly in the throes of potential homelessness or these massive management companies who do not take care of their tenants and allow them to become quite ill because there'll be mold. They don't take care of the buildings. And the city isn't as quick to help them out as we would like them to be or need them to be. So, I mean, we had spoken a little bit about our cross needs and desires as commissions. And I'm hoping that we can get some good dialogue going as far as what, our purview is pretty narrow. It's basically Section 8 and various tenants who are involved in low-income housing. Initially, when they started building, I was hoping that they would actually stay true to the city codes that allow up to 30% of the housing to be for low-income housing. It's barely 10%. So all this glorified building that's occurring that's non-ADA, that all the demolition that's carcinogenic, they're putting people by freeways. I don't know if they have any consciousness of what that means as far as breathing in the chemicals, the particulates, the issues with 17th in Colorado, right by a cement factory. There's a lot. I don't know what's happened to the state of California. I'm very embarrassed by our governor. I've had problems with him since day one, but that's for another day. We're supposed to be an environmentally sound state, but developers have gotten their hands into the pockets of many people. And our people are the ones that are suffering from it more than anyone else. ADA, I don't know if they're even being consulted about what needs to happen for these new buildings. 36 inches is not that much. The difference between 32 and 36 inches is just enough for a wheelchair. It's not that big of a deal. Even with the old buildings, let me become forthcoming. I am of a mom and pop landlord. My family has owned property in Santa Monica since the 60s. My grandpa had an office on Rose Avenue in Venice. And we have tenants that are paying rents that are so low, they go back to the 80s and 90s, but you raise them accordingly. You don't throw them out on the street. You do, if they can't make their rent, you suck it up. You do whatever you need to do to try to help people. That's the Santa Monica that I grew up in, that I knew of. Things have gotten a little out of hand with the developers. I know that we're in we have financial issues, the city, but it shouldn't be on the backs of the small percentage of people. Seniors are 22.2% of the population. 17th Street is a perfect example for me. So when I heard the call in about the gentleman that was talking about 17th Street, that it was good, except if you're disabled or senior and you need an emergency vehicle to come up and help you, or park. God forbid you should have to park. People who say, well, just ride your bike. I say, I'm 74 years old. I don't just ride my bike to go to the grocery store. I'll end up with a cracked hip. So there's a lot of inequality. The buildings, the structure of the units within the buildings, mostly single and one bedroom. That's not for families. That's for single people. And they were, initially, it was the union local hotel workers that put themselves on the top of the list for below market housing accessibility. That's something that you and I had talked about, and we're trying to amend the below market housing list so that seniors and disabled are at the top of the list in Tier 1. We're working on that. Granted, if you work in Santa Monica, it shouldn't just be the hotel workers. It should be the caretakers of the people that need your help, that are required, and they should have a place to stay within a one-bedroom apartment. It shouldn't be 400 square feet, put an extra 100 square feet in it. They're charging a lot of money for these units. And I think a lot of these units are vacant. We're trying to do a study on what the vacancy rate is, because they're building without the concern for what is still available that accommodates what was the demand from the governor, that we put in 10% of units. Excuse me, let me get some water. We should be accommodating families. I think that's really important. Family structures are having a more difficult time now anyway because of children growing up through the pandemic. Society coming through the pandemic. So what my hope is that maybe our combined voices might have a little bit more impact. If City Council doesn't want to listen to us, maybe we can approach it from a different vantage point. We're here because we care, right? We're here. We're not getting paid, so we're here because it's important. It's the way we were raised, and I think it's essential that we look out for people whose voices are much less audible than ours. I just basically wanted to introduce myself and say that, we have a hope that we can bridge some of our commissions together so that we can make them stronger and more viable. So that's really all that I came to say. It was very fortuitous that I came on the heels of legal aid.
No, thanks, Chair Gordon, for coming, and I'll reciprocate and have someone come to your meeting. We can't do official business today, but I know housing is, we've talked about maybe having ad hocs or doing something officially to cross-pollinate, because there's some intersection in our circles for sure, and let's be strategic about it. So, yeah, and we've met via Teams and stuff, so just appreciate you, and we'll figure out a way to do this strategically.
Exactly.
And just thank you for being here and introducing yourself.
Of course. No, I've learned a lot. So thank you for having me. And we have people on our commission who have also been homeless for many years, and it was very difficult for them to be able to get housing and the hoops that they had to jump through. And people who are so obviously disabled that get thrown on the street because they don't like the clutter that's being created around their beds. So.
And, a question from Commissioner Arroyo.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Nice to see you
Nice
again.
to meet you.
No, I've seen you once before.
Once before.
Yeah. So I'm glad you came in and introduced yourself. I think we have a lot of similar issue we're supposed to focus on. So it's kind of like directly related disability and housing. It's the most important thing for disabled people to have to be housed and have access to their units. So I think we're on the same page on that. So, and I look for some sort of collaboration together to bring to the city some very valuable issue which needs to be solved. And regarding parking, believe me, it's not only new construction, it's an old building as well, where they like measure, I don't know how they measure and how they get approved and how those corporation getting federal funds and state funds when they had so obvious violation on.
When you say old buildings, how like 80s, the teens?
No, beginning of 2000.
Oh, that to me is young.
Oh, no, okay, so
That to me is
relatively young, but they do. I'm not understand why the city not paying really attention on kind of like well-known issue, which is supposed to be, I mean, it's a lot of policies and law covering accessible parking, all this regulation, reasonable accommodation, disability issue, et cetera, and I'm so surprised how badly it's followed with the city of Santa Monica.
Yes.
It's like really bad.
Yes.
So we have to somehow knock on the door of a mayor and address this issue.
Unfortunately, she is not the power in the city.
Well,
No, trust me.
I know a lot.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. I have
just don't wanna.
no doubt.
Yeah. So, but we have
Yes,
to.
I agree with you.
We have to.
Um,
We have to do. I understand that state play a lots of and a big role. The governor plays role. All those new investors who start building here, they not friendly guys. Let's start with that. So I mean, I understand what's going on.
yeah, I know you
So,
do.
but we have to keep fighting because, first of all, nobody knows when they will be tomorrow. Probably those investors who now, have millions in their pocket, tomorrow will be disabled. So, I mean, from that perspective, just everybody should be human being.
There's a
That's
lot
it.
of developers that have withdrawn because of the increase of costs.
Yeah.
Yeah, things are not quite, and some of the withdrawing I'm thrilled about because they were these humongous units with no part, 500 units with 100 spots.
I believe some property was kind of flipped and they changed the projects. I believe when city approved, it was one project, and later when a new developer take care of that land, they switched to bigger building, bigger project, less affordable units, and blah, blah, blah.
Probably.
Yeah. So.
So if there's any questions or any thoughts, thank you for allowing me to come in, and hopefully we will speak soon. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
So I'm going to keep the agenda moving to 3C. I put together some resources that tie to our plan. I think it's good to see just real-world examples or best practices. So, but first, 3C1 is just actually the federal government voted to open just a couple hours ago, but still people with disabilities are with the disruptions to SNAP. So there's some resources the city put out on their website about resources available for food insecurity. So check those out. 3C2, one of our key things on our plan is about our Title II self-evaluation and transition plan, and this is a resource with all the documents, templates to do a plan from an expert for ADA coordinator. So this might be helpful to our ADA coordinator or the city to facilitate. This is a good baseline on how to do a process for a self-evaluation plan. Similarly, the city of Chino has theirs posted. That's an example of one. Yeah. Yeah, so and they update it regularly. So we don't have to start from scratch. We have templates. If we hire consultants, we don't need to have them say, this is how you do it. We know how to do it. We just, need more manpower to do it to support our ADA coordinator. So similarly, I know we have ad hoc on our website. Denver, they had accessibility laws come in a year ahead of us, so they have a great example site of what a really accessible website, and also it's really discoverable. It's easy to find things if you're a person with disability to request accommodations, request resources. I think this is a really good example of an accessible site that might help our ad hocs. 5, I'm just going to fly through these. We've talked about just the legislative updates that just got signed by the governor in October. Disability Rights California kind of gives a summary of the last year in the legislature and some bills that are particularly of interest to people with disabilities. 6, just this is a research study on accommodations, and the title explains it well. A lot of high-impact accommodations are zero cost or very low cost, a very high percentage. So if we just did a great job of offering the free and very low cost, I'm talking under a couple $100 accommodations, my goodness. And then, so I just want to share that example from a great organization. 7, we've talked about digital accessibility ad nauseum, but the Library Association has a whole library of resources on how to be accessible. Again, free consulting. So that's the resources. Just they're available for the city, the public, our commission moving forward. I'm going to keep going. 5A, we can't handle that. Or 6, I don't see any public input. 9A, reports from ad hoc committees. 9AI, the ad hoc committee on AI opportunities and risk. Commissioner Antonini's not here, but the challenge we're having is we've done a lot of research and a lot has happened, and trying to make it into a concise letter. I sent him a draft that we're going back and forth because I want to make it, I don't want to have a whole research paper for a letter to the council, and it's really hard because it's such a dense, complex topic. So we'll be back and forth, but we're working on it. But I did share, again, in the spirit of real-world examples, the state of California Department of Technology is using AI with an assistant. So see how it's being used in the wild, real example. And we talked, there's, in the October legislative deadline, Newsom signed a lot of bills that put some guardrails around AI, but address AI. So even as we embarked on this ad hoc, we were saying that there's probably going to be some legislation. Now there is. So we have to modify our recommendations. And third, there's a really good, just real, it's actually written by someone from the Berkeley Independent Living Center, just how AI is helping people. So like a real world example. Just want to get those available to the community. I'll skip around until the commissioner comes back to 3. I'll just go to the annual work plan because that's kind of the big one. We can't, so this is the report from the 25-26 annual work plan ad hoc. The folks are not here, but really appreciate the hard work, getting on Teams calls, the emails back and forth before, and all the hard work on this document. It's due tomorrow, and in lieu of us not being able to do official action, this is going to be what we're turning in. And I'll just go through the process. We met multiple times on Teams. During the Teams meeting, we did screen shares, talked back and forth, writing furiously. After the meeting, we'd send out a draft. I'd say, commissioners, you have any feedback? Then we met again, went over the updated draft, did a bunch of work, sent it out, said by this date, if you have any feedback, I got to get it on the agenda, and we talk about it today. And this is what we got. And again, we're going to do another one in 7 months or so, but this is very robust, and I think the hard work will help now and also in the future, because it gives us some examples of things to work on. So just really happy with the work, and this is going to just go from draft to final, so we can it's been a long meeting, so just we can't move on it, so just review it and take some time to read it, and you have a printed copy, and just kudos and thanks to the ad hoc on this. And at the next meeting, we can't move to close the ad hoc, but I will move to close it when we can do it officially. And then in the next coming months, we'll open a new one as soon as possible to start the next one. Because I'd like to approve this earlier next year, or the next chair a little earlier, because it's as of July 1. Moving on to 3-4, Commissioner Rockfeld.
I don't have an update on website at this point. Thank you. Quality assurance. ad hoc.
No, I will. I gave you feedback on it.
Yeah, I'm apologize, I wasn't able to reply, but it's kind of like, I understand there is some sort of similarity, which I'm proud about. So because I did a review by myself and I put in those points
Yeah.
based on my knowledge of IT. So I hope it will help somehow. You guys welcome to a review and give me like feedback. So, but I think it's, I mean, I don't know. I just did it to start with something. Then we can change a lot. So
And I'll forward it to you. Your natural feedback aligns with what the ADA Title II regulations are that are coming into effect just naturally. No, it's
thank you.
more than, so
I
that's,
didn't read them.
yeah, so that's
Honestly,
just
I
good,
was
yeah.
kind of like I had no time to read those regulations. I like busy with others.
No worries.
Common sense accounts.
Right, just
Yeah,
like
something's missing, something's
yeah,
right, something's
trying
wrong.
to
So
do.
I'll forward that. We can't do 6 or 7 because we can't, but just again, think about if you want to be a part of an ad hoc or a board or commission. We heard today maybe there's a collaboration with the Housing Commission type ad hoc. I'll circle back once to the commissioner's update, Commissioner Gordon's, but 13A, future agenda planning. Thanks to our liaison, I believe we have the CIO coming. We're excited about that. Their staff gave me a PowerPoint. I provided some feedback, so hopefully they'll give us more feedback, and maybe I'll do one more round of feedback, but really excited to just have them and start that conversation. So that's great. For 2, I haven't gotten an update on the executive director. I think a barrier is just getting here in person, so I don't know if there's a virtual option yet. So that maybe January might be ambitious, but I'll still reach out again to see if it's plausible sometime. But that might be a challenge. I think it's a win, not an. I think they're definitely would like to. It's just hard to get to Santa Monica. And because this program is rolling out January, he might be a little swamped. But in the meantime, I'll definitely share more information about this program in January. And then I don't know, Thomas, if you have any updates on this item.
On item 13.3?
Yes.
No updates yet. I will work to see what laws are being instituted, and then we'll align on an item for January. But no update there. And of course, there's always new things coming down the pike, so we'll address those, and I'll work with you and the vice chair.
Sounds good. Thank you. I don't know what happened to Chair Gordon.
Commissioner Gordon for her update?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna move to adjourn, just because we don't have a quorum, but I'm glad this was a really productive meeting. I'm just glad, thanks again to Legal Aid, Thomas, for making that happen, and we'll work hard between meetings, and again, thanks for we have a plan, so review that. I'll see you guys in a month. Thanks, everybody.